Facing challenges and overcoming setbacks is part of doing business. Whether you have the expertise to survive them or not could mean the difference between success or failure. Welcome to We Are Women, featuring revealing conversations that provide invaluable insights into the success secrets of female masterminds. A must listen for every entrepreneurial woman. Now here's your host, Janine Vosper.
Hi, it's Janine Vosper here, and welcome to this episode of the We Are Women podcast. I'm very excited to have a friend on today, Kylea Moloney, and Kylea is just an amazing lady. She is an inner focus coach, and she coaches both men and women who want to experience more connection and find real fulfillment in their life and in their business. With over 20 years experience in personal development and having studied and practiced numerous personal transformation modalities, including life coaching, NLP, and kinesiology, Kylea offers a unique skill set as a coach, which is underpinned by a solid foundation in business. Very short bio read, Kylea, but we're going to find out so much more. It is great to have you on. Welcome.
Thanks, Janine. Great to be here. Thanks for having me.
I've got to know you a lot more over the last few months, and then I thought this is going to be of such value to the people listening because I've got more of an understanding about what you do and why you do it. But so if you could just expand on what this inner focus coach meaning is and what you believe, why you believe it's so important for people to understand.
Yeah, sure. So, look, I guess what I've seen through my own journey in life and just from working with people coaching, so much of what we're experiencing, the stress we're experiencing in life comes from the inside. It comes from how we think. And so, we can have two people having the same, in the same circumstance, but both having very different experiences of it, depending on what it means to them and how they're looking at it. Our habitual thought patterns, the way we see the world, absolutely shapes the experience that we have. And so my focus when I'm coaching is there's a lot of stuff out there that we've got no control over. We've seen that particularly these last 2 years. There's a lot of things that we can't change. What we can do though is change how it affects us, what's our ability to move through it, to find peace, to be happy and to be successful at what we do, regardless of what's happening out there. And that comes with looking inwards and making peace with yourself, knowing people are so much more capable of moving through things than they realize. And a lot of it's got to do with understanding how you think, what you make things mean, and what you're able to change. Because a lot of it you think, well, this is how it is, I can't change it. But there is a lot we can do to change your experience in life and business.
I was listening to a book this morning, and it just sort of is so much in alignment with that. And it just talks about the choices we make and making them consciously or being basically asleep, and and things just happen to us without our awareness or making those choices. And then when you become actively involved in your own life, that gives you that focus then, doesn't it?
Oh, totally. What's interesting though is because I've been doing personal development for a long, long time. And even when I was in my business, I thought I knew lots about, how to be conscious and awakened. And, I'd done lots of healing and I've been moving through a lot of things. But when you don't know what you don't know. And, you've really got to have some understanding of how your brain works, how you function as a human being, how communication works, because you think that you're slowing down and you're looking at all the pros and cons, you're stepping back and you're going, okay, hold on a minute, what have I got to weigh up here? Well, what you don't realize, you're making the best decision you can with the information you have. What you're mostly unaware of is how much your reticular activating system, the filter in your mind, has cut out so much data, not even delivered it to you. So you are making really conscious choices with the information that you have, not realizing that there's a whole lot of information that you've just missed. We are taking in so many bits of information, millions of bits of information every second, and we can't possibly process it all. And it's not a design flaw. It's actually a really great way that we as humans are designed to function. But when you become aware of that, when you go, hold on a minute, is that the only choice I have? And you can start to ask different questions and delve a little deeper. You start to open yourself up to new possibilities.
There's a few things in there, and I'm going to come back to when you had your other business, because I really, and that's your story, and it's keen to hear about how you got from what you've been doing to where you are now, and how you're helping other people achieve the results that they want to achieve. But I'm always keen to explain more about the RAS, because it's such an important factor about what we do, that reticulated activating system. And I think the best analogy that I can ever give is when you go to buy a car, or you buy a new car, and it's a Ranger, and one of the big utes, and you've all of a sudden they're all over the place, and you see them everywhere on the road because they become part of your consciousness, whereas you really never noticed them.
Before.
Yeah.
It's so true.
And that's the thing with the RAS, is that when we're not aware of what we need to be looking for, really, until it becomes in our awareness, and then we see it.
Yeah, so there's all these sayings, what you focus on expands, and they're not just sayings. They're actually, it's not just, oh well, if I start paying attention to it and I'll deliberately focus over here. There's mechanics inside our brain, neurology, that is shifting and supporting us to do that. Like, really, our body is supporting us. Our physiology supports us to move towards what we want. The thing is that it has no judgment. It will focus on whatever you're spending time on. So if we're habitually going, oh, that was terrible, what about this? This is a problem, and you're worrying, it's going to get super tuned in to go, oh, it's important that you need to know that. Now, it doesn't care what the information is. It's just bringing it to your attention so you can make a decision about whether it's right or wrong yourself. It's just simply going, well, you keep thinking about it, so it must be important. So I'm just going to keep showing it, because obviously that's what's important to you.
Yeah.
So
I had somebody, I did some training on Saturday, and then I did some training again last night, and somebody mentioned, and they said it was really out of character for me, because the training that I did on Saturday was a new concept for people. It was, rather than feedback, it was feed forward.
Right.
And they mentioned that I had said quite a few times, this is difficult.
Yeah.
And I had said something in the training last night, which I don't know where I did that, because it was not a difficult concept. But I had said it again, and it was wonderful that they brought it to my attention, because that was very unlike me, because I want people to grasp new concepts rather than going, this is difficult.
And we are subliminally feeding those messages to others and to ourselves. And that's the thing, when someone feeds back to you, because you don't notice it because it's just so habitual, it feels like home, there's no alarm bells going off that you're mentioning it. When you get present to something, that's 50% of the work, that you've even noticed that you're saying it. And people will say, when you point something out, like, they go, oh, but I didn't mean it. I'm like, I know you didn't mean it, but the fact that it comes out when you're not focusing, that's important, because 95% of our daily day-to-day tasks and movements we do are unconscious. Like, we don't have to think about whether we have to, if we lift our arm up, we don't have to instruct our muscles what to do. We just do it. We go to, even when we're driving home, how often have you pulled in the driveway and go, oh, I can't even remember those last two turns. How'd I get here again? Because we're on autopilot. We're not thinking. And so it's those subconscious patterns that we fall back to when we're on autopilot that ends up shaping the biggest part of our life, because we can't be focused on every little thing all of the time. So while we are able to be totally present and in the moment, the best example I can give is into the estate that I used to live in, there was two ways I could come in, and I always came in one way and my husband came in the other. And he would go, oh, my way's quicker, why do you go that way? And so on principle, I kept coming my way, because I wasn't going to let him be right. But after a while, I'm like, this way's actually quicker, really, what am I doing here? I'll start going his way. And so I did it for like a week or so. I came in that way. Then one day I was busy and I was turning things over in my head, thinking, next thing I know, I'm back on the old path again. So it's the default that we go back to when we're not focusing. And that's what we want to clean up and change, that patterning and that default, because, while things are going good and you're on top of it, you can consciously control something. But it's what happens when you get stressed, you immediately revert back and rely on that old programming, that old patterning.
Yes, that the thing that popped into my head then was when you are feeling stressed and let's go grab the ice cream, or that
Totally.
even though you're on
Yep.
on a diet, you sort of will blow it. And
Yep.
this book I'm listening to is called The Compound Effect, and it's so much about what you're saying. It's those little tiny choices and movements and patterning about driving home a certain way, or that it becomes a habit. And his statement is, have you ever been bitten by an elephant? And people go, well, no. But have you ever been bitten by a mosquito?
Yeah.
It's those little things that create the difference, isn't it? It's not.
Yeah, and you
doesn't
don't
have to be
see
the
it.
big things. It's the little things.
Yeah, it is. And so, that this practice of becoming consciously aware in your own life, people say, oh, I don't have time, it's, to do that. But it's not that it is a time thing, but it is a focus thing, and it is a practice. Like it really is an intention to decide to be aware and to decide to take notice. Because, we get caught up and people go, I don't know why this is happening. But when we slow down and we start putting all the pieces together, that it's like, oh yeah, I get it. It's not rocket science, but you don't know what you don't know, because your reticular activating system, the way you're functioning, is not telling you. It's just going, we're functioning. Yes. It's all good. I know what to do. Yeah. You go do that. And it's, and which, it's not a bad thing. We have a lot of good patterns too. We have a lot of things that we excel at, and that's programmed in there too. And we get in the flow, we're on fire. So there's a lot of good things. It's just that we want to catch those things that aren't working for us and fine-tune them. Yeah.
Yes, absolutely. Now, tell us about, or tell the listeners about, your background and the businesses that you've had, and just a little bit more about Kylea.
I've had a really varied journey. I guess I like doing different things. I like using my mind. I like working out problems and strategy and solving. So I actually started in this world as an industrial chemist. I studied chemistry at university and worked in industry for a couple of years, and then I got into, wasn't enough people interaction in that job for me. I like interacting with people. I was spending a lot of time in labs at that time. So I got into working with software developers and designing systems, and that was much more fun because then I was the go-between between the client and the system designer. And I've done sales and system design and training and all sorts of things on that side of things. But then my real dream was to have my own business. And so when my kids were young, I bought a health food business, probably inspired that I'd had some health issues before that. So I think, anyone that gets into this industry of helping others always has their own journey, that they come through and go, oh my God, people have to know this stuff. And so, that's why I bought into a health food business, because I'd had, some health issues and struggles with that. But look, even despite all I knew, my patterns of how to do business, like I'd been brought up to know that, when a challenge comes up, you just push harder and you get through it. And I was like a bull at a gate, and that's how I did my business. And, I'd been through, I ended up running myself down to the point where I had severe soy allergies, dairy allergies. I had chronic inflammation throughout my body, chronic fatigue. No one could really tell me what was going on, but my wrists would swell up and I couldn't use my hands. And I had 3 young children, from at that stage, Ella was 2 to 8 years old. And I was dead set on being super mum, and I couldn't be told until I dropped a few times along that way. And I had as part of the health food store, I had a clinic attached where I had naturopaths. I had access to all these amazing people and healers and naturopaths and osteopaths and acupuncturists and that. So I was getting all this great advice, and I learned a lot about healing. And I'd have, something come up, and I'd get into my Louise Hay book and I'd explore it all, and I'd heal it. I'd be like, oh my wow, this is amazing. I'm really good at healing. And then I would go, great, now I can get back to doing what I was doing in my business. And I just delved straight back in. It was like I had to get rid of this problem over here so I could get back in and achieve what I needed to achieve. And I remember getting to the point where I was doing some really crazy stuff, but I do remember I'm still really aware of how my thought process were at the time. And people were saying to me, Kylea, you've got to slow down. You're going to burn out. You can't do this. at a time where my body was barely functioning. My kids were I still had one at kinder and two at primary school, and I was frustrated with some of my practitioners because they weren't building their business. I was doing all this promotion for them, and I felt like they were pulling the other way. So I thought, bugger them, I'm just going to go and become a naturopath myself. Like, yeah.
Of course. Next natural step, busy enough, let's go do some study.
Yeah, and, the thought of doing part-time study, what, I've got to take 8 years to do a degree? No way, I'm doing it full-time. So we were 3.5 hours from the city. So I was catching a train. I was getting up at 4 o'clock in the morning. I was on the 5 o'clock train to the city, which takes 3.5 hours. I'd jump on trams. I could get straight to class. I had backed my my subjects up so I could get 8 sessions in a day. And then if I left the last session half an hour early, I could make the train home to Warrnambool and be home by 10 o'clock. And, I'd have to run. I remember this one day, like, I wasn't fit. I was not well. And I'm sprinting along North Melbourne Station trying, someone held the door for me. I'd throw myself into the train and hit me. I was like, what am I doing? If I didn't get home tonight, I've got 3 kids to look after. I've got a business. Like, what am I doing? And eventually, I broke down over that and thought, all right, I have to give it up. But at no point in my mind did I think that this was a silly idea. I gave it up and felt like I wasn't good enough. I should have been able to keep it up. And people would tell me,
just on that, that's something a lot of women in particular, if they can't achieve something they've set as a goal, is, well, I'm not good enough then. And it's very easy to own that.
That's it. And I'd worked through a lot of different levels of beliefs, and I thought that I'd learned how to surrender. But there was some core level things there that I just wasn't, not that I wasn't prepared to give up. I didn't know that it was possible to. Like, there was so much a part of my identity. People would say to me, Kylea, you're doing too much. And I remember, just before we got out of the business, I remember going home, I was in excruciating pain. I was laying on the bed and in tears and going, oh, if they could only see me now and see how lazy I am, and it wasn't until I was running on adrenaline. I was running on in that fight, flight mode, survival mode. And the trouble is when you're in that mode, you do not have access to this part of your brain. You are running on the amygdala, all the patterns. So that's the trouble. The time where I need all the things I learned to be able to come to the fore so I could make good decisions, I didn't have access to them. It didn't matter that I knew all this stuff, because that part of my brain where that reasoning and logic is all shut down. And I'm operating on the patterns that I learned when I was, 5 and 6 and 7 and 8, going, this is how we do it. Mm-hmm. We just push through, don't be lazy.
Yeah.
And that was controlling my life. And it wasn't till, I totally burned out and collapsed, and I ended up moving away. I didn't want to sell my shop. I moved to Queensland. My husband got work up there, and I would fly back. I put a manager in, and I'd fly back once a month. And, as I had some time away and I was able to heal, and as the nervous system come down, eventually things clunked in and I started to feel normal again. And I'd look back and think about how I operated, and I could feel my body responding. And I go, whoa, I used to live like that all of the time. It's you can't see it when you're in it, and it's not logical at all.
That's a great point. You can't see it when you're in it.
No.
And trying to, but what I found in situations too is I try to logically analyze it, and you're in a situation and it's just not happening that you can.
Oh, I thought I was being logical. I thought I was really smart and intelligent, and I'd come up with all these conclusions. And I remember thinking, "Are you stupid? Like, do you think I'm not smart enough to sort this out? Like, I'm just like, oh yeah, okay, off you go. I've got this." And but I'm not using the right part of my brain.
No. And I had just something minor come up recently, and it's been sticking with me. And I know logically it's not that big a deal. It's certainly not working death. Yeah. It's not that big a deal. It obviously is, because it was hanging on. But I ended up going to a kinesiologist and just being able to clear off, trying to deal with it logically and work on it from a heart center instead, and just clear.
Yeah, it's that we can get triggered. Like we store, these patterns are energetic. The way we think, your thoughts and the emotions or feelings that are triggered in your body they're two sides of the same coin. So when you think something, you create a feeling in your body, and that's an energy in your body. It's a sensation. And so you can be thinking and you can logic your way out of it, but you've already triggered that feeling in here, and that's why you sit with it, and it doesn't feel right, and it keeps coming back up again. And so until we shift that pattern, which sometimes can be as simple as recognizing that's what it is and just breathing through it. We, as a society, as a race of humans, we don't like feeling uncomfortable, and so I find we're very judgmental about letting ourselves feel emotions. We go, oh, that's bad, make that go away, rather than accepting, actually, it's all feedback, just let it move through. And then there's other times when you might want to, you've got the opportunity when something like that's hanging on to delve a little deeper and go, what's that triggering? What's it meaning? Like, what's coming up for me? Is there something here that I can shift or change? Yeah. And it's the difference. When I like to say I coach around insights, and that's the difference between me explaining something to you and you going, oh yeah, I get it. Oh, that makes sense in theory, versus you going, and you feel that shift, that aha moment. When something shifts like that, you can't unknow it. What that feeling, that shift that you get, that's your neurology rewiring to form a new understanding about something. That's now your subconscious go-to on that topic. So it's when we can shift things at that, like those little things that are sticking and coming on, it's because somewhere your wiring is related to something that's uncomfortable about that, or something that you're not resolved with. Yeah, we can shift that.
Yeah. That's the thing is we can't unknow something either.
Not when you know it at that level.
That's exactly right. And I imagine a lot of the people that you're working with are in that same space. They're highly successful. They're running on that level of adrenaline all the time and not recognizing it. So when you're working with people like that, how do you help them see what they can't see?
Yeah, good question. So look, we always start with a conversation, like we want to get down to, what someone's view of the world is. And you know what, it's not always that they're running on adrenaline. You can be high functioning, and stress for some people can generate an expansion. Like, there's some people that after I burnt out, I was so super tuned into it that if I saw anyone pushing themselves, I'd be like, oh, they've got to stop, they've got to slow down. But I'd be like, oh, you'll burn out. But there's a couple of people I can think of that operate like that. They probably sleep 4 hours a night. But the thing is, when they're doing their work, they love it. And if that just expands them, they've never burnt out. They still operate like that. And it's not adrenaline. So it's whether it's how you respond to stress. Are you having a negative reaction or a positive reaction? So not everyone runs on adrenaline. There are a lot that are, though, and for those people, sometimes it's much easier to work with someone who's actually burnt themselves out, and now they feel like they've got a reason why they have to stop, and they go, all right, fine, I've got no choice, I'll have to learn another way. And they take that rest, and then through resting, they experience what it's like not to be in adrenaline, and we can build you back up in that power. It's harder for someone who's still functioning, running on adrenaline, they love the hustle, and trying to explain to them that, you know what, we can do it without the adrenaline. In fact, if we get you tapped into your true power, that inspirational energy that flows through you, get you so that you're expanding when you're doing this, rather than it having to be a negative stress, you're going to go even faster. So
that's the thing with those people is the problem hasn't got bad enough. So
we don't like being proactive in general.
No, it's when the problem, and this is when most people hire people like yourself or me, with I have this problem and I can't fix it myself, or for yours it may manifest in exhaustion, or it may manifest in breakdown in relationships. For me,
it can be physically in your body, or it could just be frustration.
And it's not until it gets bad enough that people go. Often, this is what I find too, is I really need help with that. That's not that proactive because they haven't hit what we would say rock bottom. As we know with addiction, it's usually until someone hits rock bottom that they don't realise that there is a problem.
And in fact, that was my story too. There was just no other way. And look, it's not right or wrong. Everyone's got their own journey. Sometimes it takes that, sometimes when we're just propping people up and getting them through things, all we're doing is putting a Band-Aid on it. We're never solving that fundamental identity shift that needs to occur underneath. And so all we're doing is putting it off to some future time when you run into it again. The best fun is when, because it's not always burnout, it's often is that frustration and stress. People are so aware now of anxiety and, running 1,000,000 miles an hour and how to slow that down. They recognise it starts playing, having an impact on their life as a whole. For others, it could be that, if you've been in one environment, you've been high performer and you know what it's like to flow, then you shift environments. Maybe you go into business for yourself or something changes in your business, or, it could be, I've had men who the only thing that's changed is they've had a baby, and you know what, there's different responsibilities that kick in, and all of a sudden they're going, oh shit, hold on a minute, I've got to provide. Like, no, really, nothing's changed. They've always been providing, but something into, mental, emotional kicks in, and something feels like it's shifted, and now they've gone and laid an extra layer of stress on themselves that wasn't there before. Like it's a new framework that they're viewing life through, and things aren't flowing, and they're going, I don't get it. Like, I know how to flow. I used to be always good at this, and now I don't get it. Something's in the way, and I don't know what it is. And
that's a really good point about that. Is you can be doing something, but because you've labelled it differently, then the body goes, oh, that should be a stressful situation, and then takes it on when it never did in the past. I hadn't thought about that, but that is certainly really relevant. That was a great example of that.
And so for these people, it's more like, why aren't I operating? Like, then they start thinking that there is something wrong because they're going, but I used to be like this. Why? I feel like I'm banging my head against a brick wall. And they're self-aware enough to go, hold on, I want that back. I can't sort out what this is. Get me back over there. And we can. They're willing to do the work. And I think that's the thing. It's not about your starting point, whether you're completely burnt out or you're high functioning and still getting stuff done. It's the awareness that, hold on, something here's not right. I know I can perform better, or I know this can be different, or I want different. Show me the way, show me how I can see this differently. I need someone to help me see because I can't see it. So it's not so much the starting point, it's the recognition that you want to be somewhere else, like that this can't be it. If this is it, not working for me. I want that.
And I imagine the support of others would be really important in that, but enabling others to support you, it would be hard for some people too.
You mean getting like others in your life on board, like when people are not feeling supported?
Or opening up to others to go, hey, there's something going on here. I'm not sure what it is, especially
what's really
with the provider.
What's really interesting is that's really common for anyone in business, women in business, feeling unsupported. For high functioning people, it's often very self-created. Because when you're really capable and really good, there's so many complexities that come into it, but like it might be because that person's just too difficult to get on board. I need them to do this and this would make my life easier, but I'm sick of arguing with them. I'm just going to do it myself. And so you step in and do it yourself, but that person's still not even really aware that they were supposed to do that or what level of support that would give you. So they just go, oh, she's doing it and she seems to be fine. She's functioning. And then, you've got your kids and you're feeling guilty because you're not at home with your kids. So you step up and you do something more and enroll them in something and make sure that you're the ones picking them up or dropping them off, that extra level of pressure to fit that in because you feel guilty. Where your kids like, actually, I don't care whether dad picks me up or gran picks me up, whatever, So we end up, when we're really capable, it's easier to do things ourselves to try to allay those feelings or to have those difficult conversations. And we can end up feeling very overwrought, overrun. We're either compensating, protecting, or avoiding having those difficult conversations that we need to have because it's easier. But then after a while, we're burnt out and go, I got nothing. I'm just giving. And usually the people on the other side are just oblivious to the fact that what? Well, you just always do it, so I don't offer.
Yeah. That's the thing, isn't it? It's just, I know I'm good at delegating, but I'm also good at doing everything. You know, that's, if there's roles where I want people to learn things, then I will definitely delegate, or if I'm on committees and things, that sort of framework, I've got so much better at that. I wasn't that great at it before, but I still am very much I just get in and do it. It'll be done then. But then, as you said, people believe that that's where you want to sit all the time, so don't offer to help because you're so competent. Then, you know, they're a little bit fearful of it. Oh, I'll just let her do it because she'll do it well. Or,
and that's because if I do it, I'm not going to get right, and then she's going to be crappy. So it's sort of sometimes between a rock and a hard place, and it's not a clean line. Like, it's not a clean line, because there's other days where you'd be totally exhausted. You could just please help me with this, and they still won't. And that one time that you needed that they didn't step up, you know, they're oblivious to what a big deal that is. They don't realise that you think you're going over, and then of course there are situations where that other person is resistant. You know, where you are between a rock and a hard place, and you're wanting support, or you're wanting something from them that they're just not capable of giving. And that's, you know, that's a hard thing too, because, you know, we at some stage, you know, some of our biggest frustrations or disappointments is expecting something from someone that they're just not capable of giving. And so the only answer always is it starts on the inside, and we've got to find a way that we don't need their support. Doesn't mean we don't want it, and it would be nice to have it. Doesn't mean you can't have it. But if we need someone else to do something so that we feel okay, then we're in desperation and we're disconnected from the power within ourselves as well. So
Sorry, go on.
And that's not a, hey, you suck it up, girlfriend, you just got to man up and you know, get on with it and not care. It's like delving in and going, well, hold on, what do I need? What am I wanting to them? Is it just that I'm wanting them to tell me, you know, reassure me and give me some kind words? Well, hold on, where do I know inside myself that I'm enough? You know, it's got to start there, because otherwise they can tell you, if you're really not believing you're enough, they can be affirming you and doing what they think they're doing to affirm you. You won't hear them.
No.
You won't believe them.
Exactly right. I was interviewed on a podcast the other day, and beautiful Helen Harris, and I'm trying to think of the name of the podcast, but it was about relationships, real relationships, I think it's called, something like that. I've been married 43 years, and certainly, you know, not that that's a badge. It's just, and her was how it was really her question. And part of it is, it's certainly not roses and kittens all the way through, but it's accepting what somebody can do. It's exactly what you were just talking about then. It's getting to a stage where I think with all of us, when we move into relationships, we like to change people and move to more of an image of what we see as perfect, because we believe we are. And it's well, that version is the perfect version. And it just acceptance. And I think that's come, you know, sort of 30 years on into just going, well, that's what this person that I'm with is wonderful at, and that's just the other things they're just not good at. And is that important enough?
Yeah, that's right. You know, do you want to lose all of that for this, or how can you adapt? Yeah, absolutely.
But it all came from, because that sense of belief in self. And this is what we talked about. That's you've got to have that. You can't have an external relationship with anyone until you have a really loving internal relationship with yourself.
Yeah, absolutely. Because it's hard to move into acceptance if you don't feel that you're going to be okay inside as you are, and that you can, because I mean, that love, that to get that unconditional love, it's got to come from inside, because if your well-being and sense of whether you're loved or not, or okay or not, comes from someone else, people are really fickle. You know, if they're having a bad day, they're not going to be able to give you what you need. And so you know, how you feel on this day is going to be dependent on how they feel. And that's exactly an example of not being in your power. That's a very disempowered place to live from. So we've got to understand that our true power comes from inside. It's not that we can't enjoy that interaction with others and that love from others, we can.
Mm.
But it does, I think you're right, unless you've got that knowing of who you are inside, then to say, well, you've just got to accept them for who they are, without that would sort of feel like a sacrifice. Whereas when when you're full inside and you can go and you go, oh, that's okay, because I'm okay. I can just love the bits I love and ignore the other bits.
Oh no, if I'm not going to get the conversation I want, I'll go ring a girlfriend.
Exactly.
No.
Exactly. Or go, oh, hold on a minute, do I even need to have this conversation? Yeah, it's
one other person can't be responsible for everything that you're missing in life. It's not fair to load that on them.
No, it's not. And really, that's the whole point, is that all of that's got to come from inside you. That's that inner focus. That's knowing who you are, knowing what you're capable of. Being okay with other people's disappointment or anger. When I say being okay with it, doesn't mean you have to enjoy it and hang around it, but you might choose not to be around them or take yourself out of a situation if they're in that place. But being okay that is their journey and that's where they are. You don't put yourself there and suffer through it, but not being cross at them if they can't snap out of it. That's where they are. And that's a hard thing to navigate sometimes, when you're needing someone to step up.
And you would find that, I suppose, with what you're doing, because you're working most likely with one half of a couple or one part of a business partner.
Yeah. And you know what, that's okay. We can do incredible change just with one half. I always say to people, where you meet the wavelength, the level that you meet someone on is always 50-50. Like, they're going to sit and tell me, but it's 90% them. And I'm going, I don't care. If they're showing up like that for you, you're meeting them in the middle. And so when we shift you, like when that thing that they say to you doesn't bother you anymore, and you have the capacity to understand that it's actually not about you, that they're triggered or they've got something going on, then instead of getting angry, because those conversations, like if you've been married as long as you will have these arguments where you say one thing, and if I press pause there, you'd be able to tell me what he's going to say, what you're going to say. Like it's really the same argument that you have every single time. Yeah. And that's what happens, is it just radio out. But if you can step back and go, oh, we're having that, okay, wonder what they're upset about. They only get like that when they're upset. And if you can stand back and go, hey, are you okay? What's going on? Instead of going, how dare you, you have a different conversation. And so one person shifting and stepping into awareness of what's going on, becoming aware of your own tone of voice, taking responsibility for, because it's not about the words that you say, it's the energy that communicates with it.
Correct. Yeah.
It really is. People go, but I do say, what do you need? Like, do you say it like that?
my husband will say things that are just wrong. He said to my daughter-in-law, oh, you're looking good. You look like an Amazon. Meaning how good she looked, and it was just so wrong. It was. And he, what did I say? I didn't mean anything offense by it. And
I don't know if we can ever coach that out of someone.
He said to me, oh, you're just like an old pair of slippers. Like, oh, my goodness me. He said, what? He said, it just means it's so comfortable being in a relationship with you. I go, oh, that's not what I'm hearing.
Yeah, see what we're up against. Yeah.
But it is the important factor of how you respond to it is what I'm
that's
getting
the
at.
only thing you have control over.
When you do that better yourself, I think then you start not hearing, or you said not to get the triggers don't happen, but it's also they start to change.
It does when you don't respond. Absolutely. When you don't meet them in that energy, you recognize going, oh, wonder what happened there. And you can hold their place and go, hey, what's happening? Are you okay? You shift the energy. You shift the energy and you drop into your heart and you're able to hold a space for them. Now, look, they may or may not respond, but you can go, instead of having that conversation you used to have, to go, look, you know what? I'd really love to talk this out with you, but I know this is not the time. I'm going to go away and I promise you we'll have this conversation later. And just by having that space, things can settle. You have to walk away knowing, because, it's hard to sit with, that can be very dissatisfying to sit with the fact that they're there and walk away and it's unresolved. But sometimes you have to have the strength and the awareness to be able to sit with that, because you know no good is going to come from it. So knowing what you're capable of, knowing what you're capable of breathing through and being present to, allowing things to settle instead of us having to fix them all the time. It just...
That's hard.
It is. It's uncomfortable. But we do have the capacity for it. It is a practice and it is a conscious intention, but you do have the capacity for it. We've just become so accustomed that we want everything solved right now, because I don't want to sit with that discomfort. And there's again all these sayings about get comfortable with being uncomfortable. That's life. People say to me as we work through because often people will come because there's something big happening or some big change, but once we get through that and they're cruising pretty well, and then something else starts happening, they're going, I thought I was over this, I thought I'd sorted this out. I'm going, it's never going to sort out. Life's still going to keep coming. This is not about stopping that flow of chaotic things, and there's so much in this world that you do not have control of. You do not have control over other people or where they're at or how they're going to respond. But what it does mean is that when you're more self-aware, you're more understanding of what you're capable of, you can move through it quicker, you notice it quicker, it doesn't go as far, you nip it in the bud, you just move through things quicker and life becomes easier. It just becomes easier.
And that's the factor, isn't it? Just life becomes easier. We're all after the elusive happiness, which is great. But when things are easy, the happiness just comes in because it's just easy.
Yeah,
and things just flow, and having the intention that they're going to flow well. A bit like, it makes a big difference as well. A bit like me talking about how difficult something was going to be. No, life's flowing easier. There'll be a car park when I go to the shopping centre. That's sort of manifesting that stuff. We could talk for ages and ages.
We could. Wow, look at the time. Yeah.
One of your things that I know I've heard you say a lot, and I think it's going to be one of your takeaway points, is how to slow down to go faster. Or to slow down to go faster. It's
because it's a bit of an oxymoron, isn't it? Like you think, what do you mean? I can't slow down. But what I mean by that, it's when you notice yourself, like one, if you can become aware of when you're pumping with adrenaline, like adrenaline's a good thing. If you're under the pump, you need to get something on, bring it on, it saves you drinking coffee. It'll get you that energy that you need, but it's for short bursts. If you're running on it every day, if you're feeling that buzz in your body and you're racing, slow down, because one of the things when you're in fight flight, you produce adrenaline, you produce cortisol, which dampens down your pain responses, which means you're not taking care of yourself as well. Your immune system's flattened, your digestive system not shuts down, but slows down, and same with your reproductive system as well, because everything's there for you to move fast and just get out of danger and do what you need to do. But also, we shut down access to that cerebral cortex at the front, and we start operating from our amygdala, which is all our pre-pattern programming. So you better hope that you've got good programming back there from the past on how to run your business or whatever, because when you're in fight flight, that's what's running your business, not you. Everything that you learned last week or the week before. So the sense is that if you notice that you're racing, you need the skills to learn to slow down, switch those off, get connected, just that 10 minutes out. And look, I know if you're racing, it's not 10 minutes initially, but this is why you need to build a practice. The worst time to be learning how to meditate or how to get connected and grounded is when you're in the middle of a buzz. It's always that thing. If you're already in that, don't worry, hold on, you'll crash soon and you'll be over, and then you'll get a good sleep and we can start fresh. Like, honestly, it's just life. But you build this practice so you have the skills that when you notice it, you go, hold on a minute. I'm just going to sit here, I'm going to get connected, because if you get access back to your brain, which means then when you go back to work or you go to do that thing, you've got all of your resources on board. You've got, you can eat and digest properly. You've got nutrients to fire your body. You can think and function better. So it's that, slowing down, getting all your resources back on board, so that you can come out and function. The biggest thing I hear when people are racing, their mind's racing, the first thing we try to determine is, are you in overload or overwhelmed? Overload is you're being superhuman and thinking you can take on, they tell me what their to-do list is, and I'm like, and what world did you think you were going to get that done today? You know, like they've got 24 hours of work and they're at work for 10 hours. So that's overload, like that's self-inflicted. Let's write a to-do list and do some time planning. When you're in overwhelm though, and your brain's buzzing round and round, you often hear people say, it took me 3 hours to do this when it should have taken me 20 minutes.
Right.
And that's the benefit. Slow down, get connected, you come back in and, you know, oh, that goes there. Good, done. It's quick, it's easier.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So that's the first point, slow down to go faster. Second point, take away.
Recognize the roles your thoughts play. In other words, what are you making things mean? You know, in a situation, if something's looking bad for you or feeling bad is more the point, because we tend to go on by what we feel. Think about, is it true? Is it true? Like if you're looking at going, oh, this is going to go like, a client the other day is a real estate agent and she hates making those calls to say that like maybe a contract fell through or something. And she goes, I always get really worked up. The thoughts in my head is, oh, they're gonna you know, fire me, or they're gonna go somewhere else, or they're gonna blame me. And she goes, it's really, really hard for me to make those calls because I'm thinking they're gonna, you know, have a negative response. And I said, and do they? And she goes, well, no, most people just go, oh, that's no good, you know, and we'll work together. So, you know, she said there's been a couple, like over 15 years, she might have had 3 people that went, oh, yeah, out, but that's not very big odds, right? Catch those thoughts and go, hold on, is it true? What am I afraid of here? What's the worst that could happen? Sometimes it may be true, but when you get to what's the worst that could happen, worst that could happen is they could delist it. Okay, do you have the capability, the resources inside of you to handle that? Well, yeah, I know what to do. Okay. So why are we worried? You know, so, but we have to question those thoughts. Just because a thought's popping into your brain, it doesn't mean that it's true. It's just a suggestion. And we've got to start treating our thoughts as suggestions, a reflection of how we might have experienced in the past, but it's not, you're in the driver's seat. Consciously, you've got to check in and go, hold on, is that right? Or can I think of this a different way?
Yeah, I like that, treating your thoughts as suggestions,
not
as a truth.
That's the biggest thing, is that people think they are their thoughts and they're not. We are consciousness, that we have the thoughts which are coming from our physiological apparatus, how the way our brain works and our senses interact with the world. You know, there's this constant stream of thoughts. And then we have this innate wisdom that, you know, is beating our heart and knows how to heal our body and to do stuff and is guiding us. You know, like we get to sit in the middle and we should be drawing from both of those sides. But what tends to happen is we just think that we live over here. And we don't.
Yeah. I know. I've done things where if you get a thought through that's not conducive to the most effective steps, I usually add I don't, that doesn't happen a lot to me, but I give it a stupid voice or something. So
and look, there's lots of, this is the thing, there's lots of techniques, you know, like even softening it, like changing it in, this is going to happen, and go, yeah, sometimes it happens and maybe it won't. You like whatever it takes, there's lots of different tricks, because although it's such a simple concept, I get that it's not easy. When there's a lot of momentum behind a thought and there's a lot of traction there, it's not like you can just make it go away. This is a practice. It is.
And that is the thing about something compounding. If you do it once and it
gets easier,
and then do it another day and do it another day, and eventually it becomes the way you think or the way you act. It becomes your habit.
It does, absolutely.
So part number 3.
Be clear on your role and expectations of yourself and others. So that's just look like, where are you looking for someone else to fill you up or to support you or to make everything okay? And look, that is really that delving deep inside you, stopping and going, do I need that really? Because I want you to know that you've got everything that you need inside of you, because the only person that you can rely on is inside of you. And that's not, I don't want that to be misinterpreted, but like, hey, we've got to go it alone. It's not what it means at all. It's just understanding that you're okay with other people being where they are. And then, because, you know, it might be that you need to get support elsewhere. You need to ask someone else, or you may not need to step back from something. And sometimes that's the knowing that you've got the capacity to do what you need to do to get that support, whether it's asking for help or there was a time I had a client that was wanting to build she'd built her business incredibly, and now the next step was going out on the road doing workshops. And she was pushing and pushing. I wanted to get this done. She had 2 young kids, and she also wanted to take them to dancing, to do this and to do that. And I'm looking at it going, okay, I want to support you, but how does this actually fit in this world? And, you know, her expectations of herself and what she wanted her life to be, when we actually sat down and worked through it, she went, oh, but she didn't want to. She was so uncomfortable with giving up this idea that she can't do this year. And so she had to, when she got
might be
clear
not
on
the time at the moment.
And then that means then you have to do that work to find acceptance around what is, you know, what is, and there is more coming. It's not, I'm not settling that this is as good as it's get. It's just accepting that it is all coming, but let's stop forcing it. Let it allow it to happen in the perfect timing.
Yes, yeah, an important factor. And something that I've just done throughout my life is, what can I do next? What can I train now to do next that'll fit in with my children's lifestyle or my family's lifestyle?
Yeah.
So when they were young, I thought, well, if I learn to teach aerobics, I can take them with me into the babysitting, the aerobics, and was able to do that. And then I went, I think I want some more now. I'm going to study management, and I'll get into a repping role. They were in primary school, which meant that I had flexibility still to be able to go to their sports matches or sports days and things like that. And then as they got older, it was what's the next stage, but it didn't have to be like that. But it took so much pressure off. It was. Because that's a value system, isn't it? That was a high value for me. And if I had to push that against working full time, it would have caused a dis-ease.
Absolutely. But sorry, the thing is, like, for me, I had a really high value on being a mum as well. But I also had an absolutely wrapped up identity being a professional business person. And I was the only one out of my family to go to uni and out of all my friends. And, I took a lot of pride in that, and I enjoyed that. And I got into really high performance work with what I was doing. And I really enjoyed that. And so I was so wrapped up. I had these 2 conflicting. I think this is a really common thing for professional women who are becoming mothers, is to find that fit, that as they step back into full-time motherhood, that, you know what, they value it, but they just can't find the same fulfillment. It's a totally different role. And I think that's a real challenge for us, and something that's really important for us to bridge right now, because I think more than ever, having that stability. And look, I don't think there's anything more important than raising my kids. I went on I know we're probably going over time, but when I was in the midst of a breakdown, we did 7 weeks away traveling in caravan, took the kids out of school, and that was an eye-opener for me, because now I was actually in the presence of my kids 24/7 for 7 weeks. And Noel and I, my husband and I, were in the front seat and would talk things, and we started to hear some of their opinions and things, because normally you come home from school, you're into your routine, you do what you do readers, and then on weekends they're out playing with their friends, but this is what in the car with them. And we started hearing them expressing some views and things about the world, and we're going, what? Where did they get that from? And I just started to realize, like, what a small window we have to shape the lives of our children, because they've got some of these negative beliefs and things that they've got going on that they're all just picking up at school because they're spending more time in school than anywhere else. And that really brought home to me how important it was for me to be paying attention. And I hadn't been paying attention because I was so busy over here.
And it is, and I will wrap up now, but it is something that women definitely, I've worked with so many, as you have, that find that as a conflict. But I'm starting to find that men find that as a conflict, or are now verbalizing it also. Where they hadn't.
So it's not a one size, it can't be a one size fits all. It really cannot be. So it's not like I've got some answer for you. I'm just going to work with you to help you find the right way for you.
So, thank you so much, Kylea. There's so much information in there. How can people get in touch with you and find out what you do?
Well, I do. I have a website, kyleamoloney.com.au. So there are contact details on that website. They can call me through that, or perhaps find me on LinkedIn. That's probably the best way to connect with me, and I can, follow up. I do offer for anyone, because this is really personal work. So for anyone, I always sit down, we have an hour conversation, we do a bit of a discovery session to see where you're up to, how it is I could help, if the work I do is of value, and whether we're connecting, whether, you know, what I'm talking about, whether we're the right person to work together. Yeah. Most people that work with me, I work with them, we develop really good relationships and we work together over a longer period of time. So you know, it's a good chance for you to check me out and for me to see how I can best help you as well.
Yeah, that's great, and that's of such high value, and to be able to do that, to know whether you fit with somebody, I think that's such an important factor. Also. Absolutely. Yeah. Thank you so much,
Janine. It's been fun.
That's another episode of the We Are Women podcast. If you are looking for past episodes, I think you'll find there's about 130 something of them. Amazing women like Kylea that give you some phenomenal advice on a whole lot of different subjects. So go searching for them. You can find them on my website, janinebosper.com. And remember, if you're struggling a little bit, you're not sure about what direction you want to go in your business, or something's popped up, you can book a free strategy call and just going to the website. And because of all the amazing contacts I have, if I'm not the person that can help you best, I can direct you to somebody who can. So join us next time for the next episode of the We Are Women podcast. Bye-bye for now.
So, do you feel stuck in a rut in business? Visit speechperfect.com.au and download Janine's free ebook to avoid the 5 most common stumbling blocks women face in business. It's jam-packed full of tips to overcome the barriers that could be holding you back from the success that you dream your business will be. We would love you to leave a review of today's episode and share this podcast with other women in need of entrepreneurial inspiration. Subscribe to the next episode now and join the We Are Women community.